Welcome everyone to episode 62 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm here with Doug and Owen, and today we're talking about Alex Garland's new movie, Civil War. But first, as always, we can talk about what we watched this past week. Owen, do you want to start this week?
Yeah. Yesterday, I just popped in the Brockage Criterion and was just kind of going through the third disc. They have these like cool little, I don't know what they call them. I forget what they call them on the actual. There it is. Yeah, I forget what they call it on the actual Blu-ray, but for some of them, you can play it, and then it's like basically like a little audio commentary from Stan. But since they're so short, like it's literally just like a snippet. So those were fun to like kind of go through. Let's see, for actual like features, I don't know if I watched too much. But we'll see. I Oh well, I watched the first Omen, which I wasn't on that podcast, but I saw that twice, which I really
you could talk
liked.
about that.
Yeah, do you want to do a little first Omen spiel for the people?
Yeah, no, it's very fascinating. I don't know. You guys obviously probably talked about it to lengths, but I think as far as like a studio prequel, I think it's very interesting because me personally, like I saw the Omen last year and I was like, that's fine. Like it's a fun. I think I saw it. I don't know when I saw it, but I've seen the Omen like once, and I was like, that's cool. Like there's stuff I like in this movie, but I don't really care about it. Where
it's
the
not
first
like The
Omen
Exorcist.
it's like it's just I think it exists kind of in the middle of like all those classic horror movies where it's like I don't think it's bad, but it's also like not my favorite. Like it's not Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I think I like it more than like something like I'm not crazy about Halloween like the first one, so I think I like it more than that. But for this movie, I think it's like it kind of exists on its own, really. With I think Nell Tiger Free is incredible, and I think how do you say
Arcacia Stevenson.
Arcacia Stevenson. I think the big thing here is I think she is incredible, and I think as a directorial debut, like it's super exciting because always welcoming like new talented horror directors, women directors. Like I think this is really great. Really excited to see what she can do.
And she seems awesome as well. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
I
guys
did
listened
watch
to that interview of her, but I was like, damn, she seems fucking cool.
So
like,
does
she's got it
Nell
figured
Tiger
out.
Free. I listened to some interviews with her.
Those are the two goats.
It's like
I want the two of them to make 10 movies together.
Yeah,
Can I say I kind of want to watch that show with her. I might actually like watch
Servants?
TV.
Servant?
Yeah, I might actually watch it.
We should do a servant. We should do a servant thing.
Yeah,
like I kind of want to watch it.
We should actually really do a servant. That's like kind of like that's like the TV show we should cover if we actually do a TV show.
Oh, you guys aren't gonna watch Fallout, you mean?
Kevin, I need you to be serious. Lock in, buddy. Lock in.
I'm sorry.
No, but yeah, I think like it's a great movie, and I think I'm excited for both of their like futures. That's pretty much all. I watched Slacker and I watched American Graffiti, which are two early films from like some of our great filmmakers, both Richard Linklater and George Lucas, and both kind of similar vibes in a way. They're kind of just like walkie talkies kind of thing, but Slacker is very much like an extension of It's Impossible to Learn to Plow. It's kind of just it's like literally just if you've seen that movie and then you've seen like Before Sunrise, it's like there's like through line there for that. So that was good. I like that a lot. But I didn't do too much watching because I've been working on stuff. But that was kind of my week.
Douglas, what have you watched?
I thought I watched more, and then I opened up my diary and I was like, "Holy shit!" I watched fucking nothing. I don't know what happened. I watched Vessels, which is like so minor, but it's Vessels, which is a short film. It was Arcacia Stevenson's senior thesis at the AFI. And it was cool. It's very much like
when did that like release? If it's her senior thesis,
2015.
Okay.
And it's cool. It's like it's about like it's about like the black market for like breast implants for trans women. and it's like pretty interesting. There's like moments where you're like, okay, she's working with like she's like an amateur, but then she's also working with like an incredibly amateur crew. And then there's other moments where you're like, oh, but this is still like this is a director that is kind of genius still. Like there's like moments. And then so that was cool to check out. And then I watched Nostalgia in theaters because
oh, you saw it in theaters? I didn't know you saw it in theaters.
Oh yeah, because that's like making the rounds because of the new restoration. It was my first time seeing it. It's like my first time watching a Tarkovsky since
years.
like like years. That guy makes boring ass movies. No, I'm joking. But that movie's really good.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it for me.
There you go.
Interesting. I didn't watch a whole lot either. Right after we recorded last week, I watched the first not the first Omen, but the first Omen, the original Omen, which I had seen in pieces growing up, like when it played on TV, but I never actually like sat down and watched the whole thing. I liked it. It was good. I agree with what you said, Owen. I don't like it as much as the new one, but it's like fun. It's like a good time. I thought it was good. I watched To Catch a Thief, the Hitchcock movie, which is really good. I kind of like falls apart a little bit toward the end. Like I kind of started to lose interest in the third act, but like everything before that, I was like, oh, this movie fucking rocks. That's a guy who is good at making movies.
Yeah, shout out Hitchcock.
I saw Civil War twice, which we will get to, and then I watched two new movies. Yeah, I know. I watched two new movies. I don't think there's going to be a point where we talk about La Chimera on the podcast, but it's possible. I saw it. I had to go out of my way to see it. It was not playing at the theater I usually go to. I drove up to New York to go watch it. Sat in a theater entirely by myself. I can't remember the last time that happened. I don't know that I have been in a theater
in New York too.
Yeah, I know. Like only one in there. I don't think that's happened in like years. Usually there's at least like one other random guy just like sitting on the other end of the theater. So I watched it all by myself, which was weird. I don't like that. It made me uncomfortable. Just like knowing
you'd rather one other guy.
Yeah, I don't like it. It just like made me like paranoid and like no, because then like if you hear like a noise and you're like, was that the movie or like is there something in here with me? And like I don't.
Is there something in here with me? Crazy.
Dude, I get scared, bro.
What if there was one other guy you?
First of all, I'm scared of the dark, and you're gonna put me in a big dark room by myself. Like well, it's not really
rank on the TV and you're strapped down.
Yeah, a big dark room with a giant box of light illuminating the room.
I know. The movie was lovely. I thought it was very good. It's one of my favorite. Not that it has much competition, but one of my favorite movies.
The streets are going fucking nuclear on La Chimera. They're saying this movie's like really good.
Some of the people, I don't know. I've seen some people who weren't as moved by it.
I feel like it was pretty mixed.
No, but I've seen some. No, I follow a number of people who are throwing out 5 stars.
I follow like 4 or 5 stars.
Maybe throwing.
No, but not these.
No.
These people.
Like these are like me and Kevin got on the same page here. Like
there's a couple of people who really like it. And I read a couple pieces on it.
Big Josh O'Connor.
Yeah, I after watching, dude, I'm gonna be honest. I was never really I never really understood the Josh O'Connor thing. I mean, I watched him in
what else is he in?
What's the movie God's Own Country, which I watched that like years and years ago, and I was like, oh, this guy's good.
I like this guy.
Yeah,
I just clicked on his Letterboxd page. I was like, he's in stuff I like. He's in
he's good, and I understand that like he's been blowing up recently, but I never really understood why, because he's never like been a big face and stuff. Obviously, like Challengers is coming out soon, and that makes a huge difference. But like the movie's not out yet, and yet
he was in Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella. There he was,
yeah. But like people love him, and that movie's not even out yet. So
I've seen him in.
Yeah, I was like, I need to get behind this, and then I watched him in this movie, and I was like, you don't even need to do any more explaining. Like,
wow, this is like a really big Josh O'Connor year. He's also going to be in the new Paolo Sorrento. Sorrentino.
You got close, dude. You know what you need to do is you need to type in the chat before you say a name, and then let us say it for you.
Okay. Wait, like he was in the Romeo and Juliet thing you like?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. He's like, I know this guy.
Yeah, he fucking rocks, dude. I watched him in La Camara, and I was like, oh, this guy is a star, like a capital S star. Like he's fucking awesome. And the movie is gorgeous. I was very moved by it. It's really
always
funny too.
every time I see the banner, I think it is Andrew Luck.
That's funny.
I
He's like a
don't know.
skinny Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
And then I watched yesterday The Greatest Hits, which came out on streaming
I
yesterday.
thought you were talking about
You're
Danny
talking about the Danny
Boyle.
Boyle.
No. Well, kind of not similar, but they're both movies about music. The Greatest Hits is like a movie where Lucy Boynton plays this woman who her boyfriend passed away, and she can like go back in time and visit him based on like the songs that are playing. So when she hears certain songs, it like brings her back in time to see her boyfriend again, but she can't do anything to change. Yeah, she can't do anything to change the past. She can only just like go back there and look at it. And
About time.
Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. I was like, oh, this is kind of like About Time light. like straight to streaming About Time.
So it's like about time.
So they're gonna get
Yeah, it's no, I mean, I saw some people really liked it. Maybe if I liked music more, I would care about it. I don't know. Like I didn't even think they really incorporated music that well into the movie. So maybe I don't know. There's like
maybe it just sucks.
There's like a Lana Del Rey needle drop, and I was like, okay. I mean, I like Lana Del Rey, but the movie's fine. It's like perfectly watchable streaming movie that I'll never see again. And that was it. And then like I said, I watched Civil War twice, so we can get to that. We can talk about Alex Garland's new movie, his biggest movie, A24's biggest
A24's biggest movie. Yeah. I love all the videos. I love all the videos that start with it's like A24's new Alex Garland movie, Civil War. Like I don't know, the first word is always A24, and that's I mean,
it is like.
What do you guys? Obviously, we all know that Civil War is now A24's highest grossing like weekend in the first week. What would you guys have assumed it was before this?
Oh, it's not what you think. It's like
I know. I don't even know what it is.
I know because I remember this was a piece of trivia.
Yeah,
this is a piece of trivia.
I watched trivia. It was like it was Hereditary and Talk to Me.
Yeah, Talk to Me. That's what it is.
Okay, I would have assumed it was Hereditary. Talk to Me makes sense though.
It's both. Yeah, I mean, that was the two. That was the two.
Also, people have stopped talking about Talk to Me pretty fast.
Yeah,
like Hereditary's had like a lasting impact to the present day.
Yeah, because one of those movies are good and one of them is bad.
Well, yeah, no shit. But I'm talking about money here. Okay, shut up. Anyway, but this is like
horror movies make sense for like a smaller studio thing.
This is like projected to be their biggest success.
It had like the biggest opening weekend
and
or whatever.
Yeah, right? It probably will be the biggest just because of what you said. Yeah, I don't know that they've ever had an IMAX release, so like obviously that's even more.
Bo's afraid. How quickly we do?
Oh, was afraid an IMAX?
Yeah, but
man, that's embarrassing. That movie made like $14.
Yeah, this movie is actually like,
gonna make money,
marketable. Kind of. I don't know.
Yeah.
The marketing is kind of an interesting part of it. Because
the marketing is just lying. The marketability of it is just lying to the public. It's just saying.
Did you guys
let's get into it because this is
like Wonka for musicals.
Why the fuck is this movie called Civil War and marketed like this? This movie shouldn't have even been called this. It's not about a civil war.
This is the next apocalypse now, Doug.
How did your theater react? Did the people seem to like?
I don't know.
Just based
the girl
on
next to me was chomping on a Subway sub. I don't know. I couldn't gauge the fucking reaction.
I was in like the fourth row with two fucking gamers and nobody sitting in front of us, and I was looking back and forth, and these two guys looked like they were fucking bored out of their minds.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't. Is it necessarily? Do you think it's a boring movie?
This movie's so boring. Like tremendously boring.
I thought it was really boring. No, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really know what was going through my head when I decided to watch it a second time. But that is the most bored I've been in a theater, maybe like in the last 5 years.
Dear listener,
was, like, hard to get through.
If you haven't put it together, the three of us fucking hate this movie.
We're gonna get there, and I have a number of things I want to touch on in order, but I just want to
I
like.
guess I don't know
that
if I would say it
first.
was boring, but I found myself not looking at the screen at times. So
That's usually a pretty good.
I wanted to walk the fuck out, dude.
I was just like,
I had people walk out in both my showings. I had. First of all,
Did
when
you
I watched
see it
it
on
last
IMAX?
night, yeah, I saw it on IMAX twice, and when I watched it last night, this family walked out of the movie after like the one really disturbing scene that we'll get to,
beginning?
and there's no,
no.
like
The
the Jesse
Plemons?
Plemons scene,
Yeah.
and there was like an 8-year-old girl with them, dude. I was like, Jesus Christ.
For the next
Maybe
apocalypse.
that's maybe that's a problem with the marketing, is that people think they could take their kids to this movie. I don't know if that's a good idea. Anyway,
it's kind of like Alex Garland, the creator.
It is actually 100%.
I just looked at the floor and there's just the creator poster.
We don't have to go like plot by plot. There are like, I would say, 5 big you could kind of separate the movie into just like sets.
There's like 5 things that happen.
Yeah, like the 5. You know what I mean? Like they just go to 5 places where like action happens, and that's the whole movie. But to like try to sum it up, like describe the movie, it's just about a bunch of war photographers who start in New York and take a road trip to DC, where the Western forces are the Western forces of Texas and California are impeding on the Capitol and trying to capture and kill the president and overthrow the government.
I have a question. I have a question about this.
Yes.
What are what's their problem with the government? What's
Wouldn't you like to know?
What's their issue?
Yeah. Okay. So the main,
they're just angry.
Before we get into like specific scenes, I think it's more valuable to talk about the thing that we hate about the movie the most, which is kind of the thing that everybody who hates the movie hates about the movie the most, which is that it doesn't really say anything at all. And so I thought we could split it up into really to try to break down what the movie is maybe even attempting to say, or what it does say, or maybe if it's nothing. We could split it into what it says about journalism, what it says about war, and what it says about America. Where do we want to start?
Well, I mean, I think that
which one of those do you think is the movie is supposed to be about?
It's supposed to be about journalism, but I have no idea what it's saying about truly don't know what it's saying about journalism. Yeah, well, I was talking to yesterday about the movie with some fucking folks, right? And I kept bringing up this idea that this movie like made me like fucking war photographers less. And I was like, there's and I was unsure at moments during Civil War where all of our main characters are war photographers. I was unsure if the movie was about how war photographers were bad or not.
I mean, one of them is quite literally, if we want to get to it, we're going to talk about characters, but like Wagner Moura's character is like kind of explicitly a piece of shit. Like he's like there's like a moment where like he's kind of like a creep to Kaylee Spaney's character, and then later when the other guy shows up, he's like, oh, he was so drunk last night and he was hitting on that girl, and it's like, oh, so he kind of just is like probably not a very good and then he just keeps talking about how his dick gets hard when he sees people dying. Like he's he's probably not the best guy.
It's like weird from Garland's point of view, where he's like trying to be like, this is about like, it feels like he's like, I don't know if I'm pulling this out of my ass, but he's like, I think he said like something about like war photographers are like Batman and something like that, where like he's like, but it's like, then you make them look like an idiot. I don't know how that was like your starting point, or like these are like really important people, and then everything about them is like they're dumb in this movie.
Well, it's like the movie the movie really kind of like recontextualizes how I feel about war photographers in such a fucking negative way. Because it's like the way this movie frames them is like, oh yeah, there's this fucking person in the middle of all this fucking bullshit. Kind of feels like they're not supposed to be there, and it's like they're hunting to take like horrible pictures of people in like the worst possible circumstances, and it's like it's like
and they're in the way.
Yeah, and they're like in the way. It really feels like you know how like social media stars are like exploit like homeless people or like people like in
Right.
poverty, right? It feels like the most fucking hyper insane like version of that.
Which is
Like
like one of my issues that like as we kind of try to pick apart what the movie's trying to say about journalism is like what exactly are their photographs supposed to do? Like they're not solving anything because we don't even know what they're trying to solve, and they're not preventing anything because we know it's already happening, but we don't know how it started. So like what
They are
purpose do their
only like
photographs serve?
capturing the moment. For what purpose? No
For
purpose.
why? Like
It's like no, I just like
I want somebody who likes the movie to explain that to me. To explain to me why they are taking the pictures other than for them to
for their
exist.
scrapbook.
Yeah, like
yeah. Well, it's like war photography and like photojournalism in general. It's like an art form kind of, right? Where
sure.
it's like a skill and there are like art can be created out of it. But uh, this kind of like idea that some people are suggesting where it's like, oh no, like photojournalists, they're like these objective truth sayers where like they go
Yeah,
into the
that's
fucking
not
weeds and they just
true.
capture like just like what is happening with no fucking sauce on it. It's like this is like the real life of the situation. And it's
Like
like
in what way do any of these images work without any context at all? There's like in the opening of the movie, there's like an image where like Kirsten Dunst is like I guess she's thinking about like her past or whatever, and you're like
yeah.
seeing events like that
And it's
she's
like her
photographed in
in
the
like
past.
Sudan or
Yeah,
something.
and there's like just like a black man like set on fire, and like we have to
That is,
stare at him for
I
like
forgot about
20
that image. That is a
seconds.
crazy
And
fucking
I was
like
like,
random
what the
thing.
fuck? And it's like, what does that image like do if you don't understand anything surrounding? You know what I mean? Like it's like that's like and that's like the not just that image, but the images of the events of the movie. Like what purpose do they serve if you don't even know anything? Like it makes no sense.
Yeah, this is like one of my biggest this is one of the reasons why I was like I kind of wanted to walk out, honestly, is because the movie really feels like it is almost entirely just like images of out of context dead people. Like people
Yeah.
dying or just like dead bodies like totally out of like I don't know why these people are dead. I don't know. It's like it's because it's I guess what he's trying to do, right, is say like, oh, these photojournalists are objective, like they have to be objective, right? Which they don't, but that's his perspective, right? That's what he's trying to say is that they have to be
Yeah,
objective. So it's like it's showing the war from their point of view, where it's like they don't have any emotional bearing on or emotional commitment to either side or to any specific cause, because all they're doing is trying to capture the image and try to show like this is what's really going on, and to their perspective it is just like a bunch of dead bodies. That's dumb though,
Yeah, it
right?
is dumb.
That's
And
dumb. Am I
there's probably
crazy?
a way. No, you're not at all. Like I mean, like images of war can't just like stand alone. Like that's just not a thing that exists. I mean, really images in general can't stand
mhm,
alone, but like especially in these circumstances, there's no way for these photos to exist without any context, and we are given none of it. Like I mean maybe 200 years ago there was objectivity or whatever, like you could present it like that. But we know that like this war has to either happen in the present day or in some future connected to our present day. Like there's no
yeah,
world that we can imagine where like images lack context because we know how news and information is conveyed to us in the present day. Like we know how the media is, like functions to serve the government and to serve corporations and to serve our military. Like there's no way that these images could just exist like that. Like that would never happen. That's not like you have to be smarter than that if you're going to make a movie about something like that.
In the first scene, after their not the first scene, I guess, like I guess this is technically the third scene in the movie after the suicide bombing at the watering well,
yeah,
when they're in the hotel and Kirsten Dunst is like uploading these pictures somewhere, like maybe like emailing them to her editor or something.
Yeah.
It was really like, oh wow, you just watched fucking 40 people actually die, like 40 people that were like fucking starving, like trying
Yeah.
to get like fucking water, which is the fundamental resource that everybody has a right to, fucking die for we have no idea why, for like no reason for us, and you are complaining about the Wi-Fi, and I'm like, I don't like you right now, it's like
Yeah.
it's like I'm
And
not
that's
relating to you.
and that's like every conversation that they have throughout the movie. So I want to get to the writing because that's a whole different beef.
That
But like,
I think that scene, when you talk about how it's like an art form, that right there is like, that's not how they're viewing it, right? It's like, how can I
right.
get
The
this
content,
this
yeah.
exactly? It's very like, it's like Logan Paul and the trees. It's like, it's very
Yeah.
much like, how can I get a bag off these people dying real quick, instead of like a different kind of. And I think I feel like they don't explain it and they don't really go into it, but these characters definitely have an opinion about what's going on. Like, they're
Yes.
not going to the president to, like, they like don't have an opinion, right? It's like they very clearly have a stance. It's just not explained or like put in the movie. But it's like,
Yeah.
these characters aren't like neutral like they don't exist like in a neutral stance, even if they're trying to be like neutral with their photos, which they can't. But like,
It is not
they
even
clearly,
hinted at.
yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't like, it's, I don't know, it's
And I think there's a way to connect what the movie is obviously not saying about journalism to also what the movie is not saying about war. Because if you look at, for example, the scene with the sniper shootout where the guy kind of like talks to Wagner Mora and then he like looks over to Kaylee Spaney and he's like, what's happening? And she's like, there's a guy in that house shooting at you guys and you're shooting, and like we don't like, they don't know why they're shooting at each other. Like that's like, that scene kind of like is connected to what we're saying about the journalism stuff, which is that like we don't get any explanations for like anything going on, and similarly we don't get any explanations for the war going on. So like, what do we think Alex Garland is trying to say about war and obviously failing to say?
That scene, I think, thematically makes sense in a different movie.
Yes.
Because it's like, because it's kind of illustrating, this idea of war, where when you have like an actual war, I don't even when you have like a war, right? Presumably on the scale of the war that is being depicted in this movie, there are moments where people get separated and like you get into like your own little pockets, and like people aren't communicating and you don't really know what's happening outside of your little pocket, and it's like it turns into like, it's like, hey, it's like me versus that guy, and
Yeah.
that's the situation I'm in, and that happens, and these pockets then get kind of like removed from the ideology of the war itself, and it's like, well, I'm just fighting because I need to fight this guy because he's trying to kill me, and that's like the other guy's perspective too, and it's like, it's just
Right.
the need of survival. Like, there's not actually like any ideology attached to this. It's not because I believe this thing and you believe this thing. It's just because if I don't kill you, you'll kill me. And that happens, right? And that's kind of an interesting thing to think about when you think about when war happens and why war is bad and etc. Whatever.
Yeah.
That I don't think it is effective in this movie because he's communicating. It's like, we're not taking orders from anybody, buddy. It's just there's a guy in there shooting at us and we're out here shooting at him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like the whole movie though. Like, there's never a fucking moment where we're thinking like, oh, these people believe in something and are fighting for something they believe in.
Yeah.
You know
And then
it's
there's
like,
like, and then there's people who kind of like suggest that like, I hate this. I hate when I see. I even got comments on my TikToks of people being like, "Well, you don't get this because like America is really close to this happening," and I'm like, "Shut the fuck up, dude! Like, shut
no,
up!" Like,
I've
first of all,
seen so many people say that. I've seen like actual real fucking critics writing for actual publications say that.
yeah, which like, okay, obviously there's like more nuance to that conversation, and obviously there's like a strong amount of division in America, and like obviously there's a disdain for the government and blah blah blah. Like these things
Yeah.
exist. Um, but but to suggest that the movie is like saying any of that is being really generous, because the movie isn't giving us any like, these things don't exist in like some vacuum where like this would just happen. like without, you know what I mean? Like something has to provoke it. And we don't know what that something is.
We have no,
Like,
they don't hint at any inciting incident. It's
yeah,
because like one of our friends, he was kind of talking to me about it, and he said that like, oh no, they hints at it, they hints at what happened, and he's talking about when what's the actor's name? Not
Stephen McKinley.
yes, Stephen McKinley Henderson is in the
Yeah.
car, and he's talking about like, oh, what questions should Wagner Mora
Right.
ask the president, right? And he's saying like, oh, he's hinting at things that could have started the Civil War.
Like the president bombing civilians.
All of those things, the implication in the movie that all of those things, like the president airstriking civilians, the president taking in a third term, all these things, it is implied in the movie started after the Civil War started, right? It's like,
Yeah.
like that is the implication in the movie. So we have
Even if it didn't, those things don't like like a president doesn't just show up and disband the FBI, you know? Like there's steps to this stuff, you know what I mean? Like we gotta, like, things have to happen before the president starts airstriking US civilians, you know? Like we gotta do things to get there first.
But the movie
I'm not
has
asking the
no
movie to explain all of that, but
like the implication, I guess, like you just have to, you could assume that that it's like, oh, the federal government overreach, like pseudo fascist regime, right? That's kind of like this, like the very light implication that you could like just
Right.
assume. But also I think that the point that Alex Garland would say is that it doesn't matter, right? To which I would say, why
That
not?
quite literally is what he said. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like, that kind of is
That
what he
is the
said.
that's kind of the
Why doesn't
thesis
it
of the movie.
matter? You know, because if it doesn't matter and like this ideology doesn't matter, then war doesn't matter because people are fighting a war for a reason, and that matters. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
it's really,
war,
yeah,
sure,
that's such a weird way to position it, is like to make this movie about war and like try to talk about war specifically separate from politics, as if like wars just spawn out of thin air, like as if like any of this would ever happen, like separated from
Outside of
politics.
politics.
Like
because
like what do you
it,
think war is? Like,
because like both sides are not created equal in war, right? There are moments where it's like, there aren't necessarily a good guy or a bad guy in a war, but
yeah,
sometimes there are objectively 100% like moral objectivity in war, where it's like there are sometimes better
and
guys and
give us an
worse guys
example of
in
that, Doug.
war.
No.
No, I'm so serious.
No,
Like,
no, I'm
like
kidding.
if
I'm
we're
kidding.
talking about
Obviously. Yes, yes. Obviously, yeah.
Israel occupied Palestine right
Yeah,
now,
of
there is
course. Yeah.
moral objectivity in that
Yeah.
war that's happening. If you're
Mhm.
talking about fucking World War II is like the easiest example, where it's like, yeah, there were Nazis. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
literally Nazis on one
Yeah.
side. Like,
But the thing is, the thing that I want to talk about really is that like, the movie is trying to, or I don't know if it I don't know how to describe this. I think he's attempting to make an anti-war movie, but at the same time, like the movie is dealing with the fact that he knows he kind of can't make an anti-war movie, because like, I don't know, he references like Come and See or whatever in one of the interviews, and it's like he knows he can't make Come and See.
Yeah.
But the problem is like he doesn't even try.
no,
Like,
he definitely doesn't try, and I don't think he thinks he was trying to make Come and See, which makes him talking about Come and See on the red carpet a little
Weird.
weird,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
he does reference Come and See, and he's like, Come and
Well,
See
he
is like
says
the
he showed it
only.
to people in the cast. Like he says he made like people in the cast watch it.
It's the reference, the reference point for this is so much more like Apocalypse Now than
Yeah,
it is
but
Come and
even
See.
only like narratively. Like that's like,
Yeah,
even then it's not like harrowing in the way Apocalypse Now is harrowing, because
but it's
like
trying to be though. That's
kind of, but like
Did he show them
there's a
Guardians of the
few
Galaxy?
there's like a few scenes, there's a few things I want to talk about really that like
Yeah.
make it so obvious that this could never function as an anti-war film, because like ultimately, like, and I think he even said this on one of the red carpets where he was like, yeah, um he said something, oh, I don't know what the exact quote was or anything, but kind of about how it's still going to be a piece of entertainment, and like you can't really like separate it from that. And we kind of critiqued, and I know Doug even like had some pretty valid critiques about like The Zone of Interest, for example, but it like tried to do the thing, whether it does it effectively or not. Alex Garland is including like needle drops when people are being
It's
murdered,
so bad.
and he
so
has
bad.
Stephen McKinley Henderson come and spoilers, by the way, spoiler for the biggest scene of the movie, spoiler. Stephen McKinley Henderson come in with a truck and kill Jesse Plemons, run him over to save the day. It's like, this
Very
is not
silly.
like,
Very,
there's
very
nothing.
silly.
I find it so hard. I like genuinely, and I don't even like mean this like offensively to people who enjoy the movie, but
No,
like,
I do.
I really, I don't, but
I mean,
like, I struggle so much to understand how people find this disturbing or like this harrowing anti-war thing, because I'm like, dude, all of this was maybe one of my major complaints, even though it feels like a minor thing to some people. Every single time, like without fail, that there is a scene that like should make you emotional, whether it is about like a really awful thing that he's showing or just characters that you're supposed to care about, there is just music playing over them. Like you're just looking at that. Like there's the scene right after there's the scene right after the Jesse Plemons thing where it shows Kaylee Spaney and Wagner Moura in the car and she's like throwing up and they're both crying and terrified. And there's just music playing over it. And I was like, turn it off. Like I was so mad. I was like, there's not a single scene in this movie where I gave a single fuck about anybody involved or even like, dude, there is in the Jesse Plemons scene again. We're gonna stay on this for a second. There is like 200 dead people buried in the ground, like regular American citizens that this guy has shot and murdered and like made a mass grave of them.
What kind of American?
And like, there's people in my theater laughing. Like there's like Jesse Plemons is interrogating them, and like people are laughing, dude. I was like, oh my god!
Jesse Plemons is shooting a man in cold blood, and you're laughing. You're laughing at my face.
No, but it is. It's never. There's a weird like tone thing going on that
it's so bad. It's so bad.
No, with the music, there was the first scene with Kirsten Dunst. I forget where they are, but it's like the beginning, like the first time you see people like getting shot. And there's music playing there, and I was initially like, what the fuck, why is music playing? And I was like, oh, actually, I was kind of at the beginning, I was like, I'm like, oh, maybe this is interesting for parts of it, and then I kind of lost that midway through. But like, I was like, oh, music is interesting here because of like the chaos, and like there's just so much going on that's kind of an interesting idea. But then music was just like later used at like the worst possible time. So it's like, oh, maybe that's not what he was thinking about. Maybe he's just an idiot throwing music in.
I don't know what song it is. Forgive me for not knowing shit about music.
I don't know.
But there's a fucking dude when there's the big shootout and the one guy gets like dragged off and then they break into the building to get the survivors and they shoot the one guy before they get the rest of the survivors, and then like immediate needle drop, this like upbeat, like happy. I wanted to actually punch myself. I wanted to leave the theater. Like that was the worst thing ever.
It's like, it's very bizarre. Like it's like you said, it's not attempting to even remove it from entertainment because it's very clear like, how can I make this as fun as possible for people, put in IMAX, so it's like, it's very bizarre to I don't know.
That's another thing when we talk about entertainment too. The marketing of this movie is so disingenuous. Like this movie, movie being called Civil War is so ridiculous. This movie should have been called War Photographer.
Photos of war. And they should have dropped the saturation and like put the music.
This is such a random side note, but my friend texted me after she saw it and she was like, shouldn't it be called Civil War Part 2?
That's so silly.
So fucking
dumb. There's like, even they have like those little Green Army Men action figures for Kaylee Spaney and all those guys, and it's just like, I mean, it's the A24 thing. It's like where A24 couldn't market Zone of Interest, but they could market this easier.
Easier.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. It's weird,
man. I hate the music cue so much.
With the movie being anti-war, right? I think that if we're kind of in agreement that what the movie's trying to say about journalists is kind of like confused and not clear, um, then the movie is just kind of like trying to function as an anti-war movie, which then it is the most kind of surface level like anti-war movie possible, I think.
Right.
Where we're just like at the point where we're just showing dead bodies out of context, which like that in itself like would be interesting in a better movie where it's like, oh, we
Yeah.
don't know what's going on, like, oh, what war is this, where are we, but it's like in context it makes even less sense than that, you know.
Yeah. Like the just the way that
Well-
there's no way that this movie is framed for there to be like a good reading of it. Like
it's one of those things where even people, it's hard for me not to be like fucking rude about this movie. You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm really having a hard
Yeah.
time because I think that like people that really love this movie, and you're allowed to like things, you're allowed to like things because they're entertaining, right?
But you're not allowed
But
to
that's
love
not what I'm
things.
talking about. But yeah, but like people that like are arguing, you know, like like
Mhm.
writing pieces and actually arguing that like Civil War is an important movie that people should
Yeah.
watch because it's
Sound
important.
of freedom for liberals.
I think that they're fucking dumb. I really do. No, I'm so serious because I
mean,
don't
I've read
understand.
I've read
I
a
don't
lot of
understand.
like I've read a lot of positive reviews and a lot of like positive pieces on the movie, and I think going to the effort to try to spin it that way, good on you. But like none of them make sense. Like not a single one of them to me. Like the longer I think about it, and especially after watching the movie a second time, like there's just no way for me to interpret this film positive. Like it's not there. And if you think it is, then I feel like the thing is that the movie is so good at, and maybe this is what makes it so divisive and so easy for people to argue about, is
Mhm.
that we all agree it's like an empty movie that says nothing, but it presents so many things that it is like so easy to try to think about it and project something onto it, that you can almost make something out of what's not there. And like as a result, the movie becomes divisive because it's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, there's nothing there." Or there's a lot of people who are like, "No, you just need to like give it a more generous reading." And that's what it is. Like it's generous. Like it because
Yeah,
it's not there. Like you
yeah.
think it's there and you've convinced yourself that it's there, but it's fucking not. Like
I'm about to
like,
make Owen's fucking head spin with the take, but bear with me here for a second.
Okay.
I think another issue with Civil War specifically is because Alex Garland is a good director, right? Um, who
yeah,
like
hold on.
makes who like makes movies that feel like premium, right? That like are like well that like look nice, and they're like written like they're like written with the structure of like
I'm on
a
board.
good
Here we
movie,
go.
and like act, and like they have like characters like say things that characters like might say in a good movie,
Yep.
and he has like really amazing actors in the
There you
movies,
go.
right?
Yeah.
But then when the movie's fucking bad, right? People go into it and they see all of these ingredients that make a good movie, and they're like, "Oh, this movie must be good." You know, they're just like, "Oh, this is a good movie. It has to be good," because there's all these like they're like checking off the bullet points, where it's like, "Oh, Kirsten Dunst," and it's like it looks pretty, and it's like the characters are like saying things, and it's like, oh, this has to be a good movie, and then it's like, no, dumbass, let's not, like think about it.
No, I agree. I think when especially with performance, I think their performances are like passable. And there's like I don't really love them, but I think people will like if a movie has a presentable looking movie and present like fine dialogue and like good performance with like A-list actors, it's like it's hard for people to hate that movie, right? That's enough
Yeah.
for like the average guy to be like, oh, this is a good movie. But it's like even some of the people we talked about who are like, oh, I like that movie. They're like, yeah, I have no interest in seeing it again anytime soon. Or like I don't really yet. It's like I don't really care to defend it either.
Well, a lot of people we know that like it, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to be rude, and I'm not trying to be rude because it's like they're not like sitting. Most of the people that we know, at least, are not like sitting on a fucking like mountain saying like Civil War is important and the president needs to watch this movie ASAP.
But there are people who there are people.
There are a lot of people,
but we don't know those people personally.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like there's a difference.
Yeah, the people we know who like the movie they think it's entertaining. They are not going out of their way to try to like give us a think piece on why it actually works.
But I do agree. I think there is like some level of not even like, I think it is very evident here, but I think it's evident in kind of the culture and how people like engage with movies. And it's like, if there are a thing, like if it is done, I don't even know what the right word, like done well doesn't seem right, but it's like, if it is done in a way that like is like, oh, this is how you learn how to do stuff, and it's like, this is the like, I don't know, it's very like cookie cutter, like this is how it's supposed to be done. Like everything is like, that's like there's like a line you just hit, and it's like, oh, this is good. There's like it's like but then it's like, that's not what
I understand what you're saying.
It's like, I don't,
it's like if the form like if the form is okay, how do I translate this? So like if the movie looks like it was made by people that went to film school, you know what I mean?
With money.
Yes, with money.
Now with
right?
money.
Yeah, pumped out of the studio, made by like a cast crew and director with some like formalistic talent,
with experience. Talented.
Yeah, an experience. We sound like such fucking assholes right
now. No, but
just say the movie's bad.
But I think there is an interesting
I know what you're getting
where
at,
it's like, there are movies that like, but if there's like a line, but then if like rules are supposed to be broken, and there's a line, and once people hit that line, it's like people accept that as a good movie. But if you defer from that line for like a reason, for like an experimental reason, and like if like say like there's such a thing as like perfect exposure, right? But if you expose it on like the like less or higher for like an actual like artistic reason, that is like a choice, right? But somebody would see that movie maybe and be like, oh, this is exposed wrong, and like say it's bad, right? And I think like it's like,
there are in Civil War there are visual decisions being made. This isn't like
there
actually
are decisions being made. It's not like
it's not like actually a cookie cutter like movie formally like this. Like they're like to the extent that maybe like Owen or I are kind of like talking about, like there are like visual decisions being made. They're not necessarily like, oh, it's not always the best
one.
But it's like that's my thing where I'm like, Alex Garland's a good director. He is. Okay,
he has the ability to direct a good movie. It is not this one, but he can do it, and he has done it before.
But I'm also going to say this: Alex Garland's a fucking idiot. He is.
Yeah,
that's true. I think I think when you make Men and then Civil War fucking back to back, it's like, yeah, you're never beating the fucking bozo allegations, dude. You're a fucking dumbass. Like,
can we talk about? Well, okay. I think these two things exist together, which is that the movie is very terribly written, and that it is in tandem with the performances. Because the first time I watched it, I was like, you know what? I liked all the performances. And then I watched it yesterday, and I was like, it's actually impossible for these people to give good performances.
I don't think there's a single good performance in this movie.
Yeah.
Maybe
well, okay, I actually disagree. I will say, I think the one time, and I don't know, maybe I'm crazy here, but like I think the one time, and this actually isn't crazy at all because I'm about to say the most mild take ever, which is that the one good performance is the one person who does not have writing affect their performance, which is Jesse Plemons, because he shows up for one scene.
I forgot about Jesse Plemons. He's the best performance in the movie.
He shows up for one scene. The writing does not affect his character. And as a result, he gets to do the Jesse Plemons thing, which, as we know, is be one of the best actors on earth.
Yeah, nobody does the Jesse Plemons thing like Jesse Plemons. He's very good at doing that.
It exists almost like separately. It feels like separate from the rest of the movie in like a tonal sense. And so like they just kind of jump into Jesse Plemons' world, and he just like scares. Well, that scene is the
good.
scariest scene in the movie, and the only reason it's the scariest scene in the movie is because of Jesse Plemons.
Yeah. I mean, he's
such a good
unbelievably
actor.
good. Yeah, and you know, I was thinking about this yesterday because I was like,
And then they hit him with a
I
car.
think we've even talked about this on the podcast in the past at some point. But you remember when people used to always like compare Jesse Plemons to Philip Seymour Hoffman, and we were like, oh, that's disingenuous because they just like kind of look similar and like it's dumb.
Yeah.
But it's like he kind of really is like the same one of a kind talent that Philip Seymour Hoffman is, like where he shows up in any capacity, in any kind of role, and can give any kind of performance you want, and he's amazing. He's kind of just amazing at anything you want him to do.
Yeah, like he has like a little bit of this Philip Seymour Hoffman thing in the sense where, like, well, Philip Seymour Hoffman, I feel like you could hand him, or like you get the sense that you could hand him like any like kitchen scratch, chicken scratch on a napkin, and he could fucking turn into Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's what I mean. Like he's just like a once in a generation performer, and Jesse Plemons feels the same way.
Kind of character actor thing.
Yeah, like exactly. he's just one of the best. And the movie doesn't get, maybe they just told him to fucking make his own lines, to be honest, because I don't even know if Alex Garland, maybe the lines are bad and Jesse Plemons just sells them. I'm not really sure, but like it feels like his performance is not affected by any of the writing. And then you get to the other performances.
Well, Kirsten Dunst is one of like the great,
one of the great actresses ever.
Wife of Jesse Plemons, notably.
Notably the wife of Jesse Plemons. Also notably a very talented actress.
Yeah, one of the best actresses.
And
truly one of the best.
She's stinking
so
it up
good.
here.
She's bad in this movie, and I don't think it's her fault. She's bad in this movie though.
But it's like it's mainly like just the dialogue that she's delivering is like not helping her at all.
There are two moments, I think. There's more than two moments, but there's two moments specifically, I think, that do a pretty good job capturing it all, which is the first being the most obvious, which is when Kaylee Spaney and Kirsten Dunst are talking at the fucking on like the bleachers of that Coliseum, and she's like, oh, how did you get your start? And then she's like, oh, I think she's like, you can tell me. And then Kaylee Spaney's like, oh, you got the badass shot of the Antifa massacre. And I was like, I'm gonna kill myself right now. That is the worst piece of writing that we might get for the next decade.
Well, the way the whole scene is written is fucking dumb too. Because it's Kaylee Spaney's like, oh, tell me how you got your start, and then Kirsten Dunst responds by saying like, oh, I thought I was one of your heroes. You don't know how I got my start. And then Kaylee Spaney then explains like her backstory, right?
She like reads the Wikipedia.
Yeah. And then Kirsten Dunst responds where it's like, oh, that's just what's on my Wikipedia. And the Kaylee Spaney's like, yeah, I asked you to tell me, right? It's
their relationship is so bizarre. It is
that is the second bad piece of writing I want to get to has to do with that.
It's very bizarre, and it like never really like there's like a moment at the end where obviously like Kirsten Dunst fucking dies, and there's like some sort of like they try to have like a moment, but it never really like their relationship never kind of becomes anything. It's just very like odd, and then Kirsten Dunst fucking sacrifices herself for Kaylee Spaney.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to say.
I know, but like I'm just saying, like in total, like their relationship is just bizarre. I don't think it really works well. And it's supposed to be like a crux of the movie.
That tries to capture their relationship. That tries to like. I mean, this is really like the only scene that exists in the movie that is supposed to like serve as character development or exposition or some kind of connection that we have, which is they go to this town that seems normal. We find out later that it's not normal because they have snipers on the roof, but it seems normal. Like it seems like it's not under Civil War. And they walk into this shop, and Kaylee Spaney makes put on a dress and like takes her pick. I wanted to physically harm myself in the theater. What a fucking awful piece of writing. What an actually awful way to give us character development in this movie that doesn't do it anywhere else. I hated it so much. It's so fucking dumb.
Like I don't even really need to explain it, but it's actually so stupid. I was like, this movie the movie had pissed me off long before that, but I was like, this is, I mean, come on, like what are we doing here?
Can I bring up another issue? This is a different kind of writing, but something that I really hate about this movie that is now I'm slowly creeping into CinemaSins territory, but I think this is like notable and really fucking stupid though, and I need to bring it up. Kaylee Spaney, it is a like a plot point in this movie where it's okay. Background, right? Kirsten Dunst is like a presumably like a well-known war photographer, like photojournalist, right? And well known enough for Kaylee Spaney, who is like much younger. She looks she looks 13 years old in this movie. They say she's 23. She looks 13 in this movie, but
they even like refer to her as a little girl. Like she's like
she looks like she's 13. And it's like, what? Oh, Jesus Christ!
Before Priscilla.
And
oh yeah, that's true. They shot this. Even
it's just been in the can for a long time.
This is because there's even an interview. I watched an interview this morning where her and Kirsten Dunst were talking, and she was talking about how Kirsten Dunst like talked to her about Priscilla, how she was doing Priscilla. Yeah, got her that role, and like she was doing Priscilla after. Yeah, so this was filmed before.
So this movie kind of
she looks younger in this than she does in Priscilla. Like
yeah,
well, I mean, but they do. I mean, they obviously try to make her younger in that movie.
But yes, so in the movie, right, it's like Kirsten Dunst is like a well-known photographer or whatever. Kirsten Dunst shoots on digital. She shoots like with a really nice mirrorless camera. Kaylee Spaney shoots on this fucking Nikon 35 millimeter fucking camera, right? And she has like this film development kit.
Yeah.
And it's like the most like bozo, like what the fuck? Like why? What is the decision here? It's like they made this decision just so that they could have this bit where she's like going through the developed pictures where she's seeing them all for the first time because they're developed and she couldn't just see them immediately. There had to have been a different way to write a scene like that without her using film is so dumb for like no reason. Like it doesn't make any sense.
I was thinking about that like while watching the movie because it was very clear that they used different, like one used film, one used digital, and I like the way I read it was like fucking Kaylee Spaney doesn't know what she's doing and was like trying to be like a try hard fucking photographer, and he's like, this is how I must shoot on film. And digital is like, I don't know. It was like, I don't know. It was a very weird, like kind of thrown in thing there that I was like, what is Alex Garland trying to say by making this little girl, or I guess she's 25, what is he, 23? But they treat her like she's like this little like girl that doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. And she's using like 35 millimeter and then like this like hardened, like been around the street fucking photographer is like, nah, digital's the wave, kid. Like it's, I don't know. It was very, very interesting.
It's like I cannot even imagine how much of a pain in the ass it must have been for Kaylee Spaney's character in universe to be shooting on film this whole time.
It makes no sense. Well, it's like there's even like a scene where she jokes in that where she's getting that dress like that. She's low on film. It's like you're in like, it's like imagine being like, it's like The Walking Dead and like they're using like film. It's like what the fuck? Like that's not like that's not a way to save resources. It's the fucking use
like developing these pictures, like she's not sending them to a lab on the go, right? Using like the development liquid, like where she's getting to temp with her body, and it's like how much development liquid does she have? She don't like you can't just like reuse it forever.
They're gonna fucking run out by the time I get to the president.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make none of it makes any sense. Like that, like that's like such a that's what I mean when it's like a little bit of a CinemaSins thing, a little bit, but it's such a big
it's also like it's a choice, and I don't understand. Like it's like I think it's
I don't understand the choice. Yeah,
but I just never one of my issues like is just like I don't think the movie doesn't use like the images or like the idea of like photography in an interesting way ever. Like
so that was my next question. That's next up on my list. Because you guys were already talking about the photography, so I was going to ask you guys how you feel about the like the still photography images that we get in the movie.
Okay, Max, I talked to Max about this last night.
Mhm.
He's seen the movie.
Yes, he has seen the movie. Max hates this movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's unsurprising.
Max cannot be on our episode, of course. But I talked to Max about this last night, and he brought up the photography quite a bit in our conversation, and he kind of posed this idea where he says that in the ending sequence when they're raiding the White House, and we're seeing every photo that Kaylee Spaney takes, right? Is and how they're all bad. He was saying how, like, are they all bad on purpose, right? And is it going back to this piece of dialogue where Kirsten Dunst tells Kaylee Spaney, like, oh, only like 1 in every 30 of your pictures is probably going to be good. Is that what they're communicating? You know,
or do they think does the movie think that the images are good?
Well, because he said, which I thought was interesting, where he was like, oh, it's like every single picture is bad, and then there's like the one picture at the end with the president, right?
Yeah.
And so is it like, oh, like all these pictures are bad, but like you're taking them so that, like, you know, the one picture with the president is like the good one, you know? So like
just fucking spamming your camera.
But I don't know, like, because people have brought up this idea that the movie is about the power of the image, and it's really important because of like the object reality of photography and like how powerful
that's what the movie's
are,
trying to be about,
right? But then if that was the case, wouldn't you have the photography look good in the movie and like be powerful?
That's like that's something I was thinking about, because I was like, I don't think there's a way to interpret the movie where you don't include that, because it's very obvious. I think that's what Garland is trying to say. Like, at least one of the things he's trying to say is about the power of the image, which, like, that's then confusing because the images aren't good, because then you kind of have to assume, if this is what he's trying to say, you pretty much have to assume that he thinks that they're good images, because
war ain't pretty.
No, I mean, but like there's like some of them where it's like, no, like this is obviously like, no, I don't know.
Some of them, yes. Yeah. I mean, some of them are just like bad in the way where it's like you would hope he doesn't think that they're good.
No, it's not even hope. Like some of them are just like bad, like obviously like bad on purpose. Where it's like, oh, like she fucked up, like taking the picture.
Of course.
Like,
and I get that.
Because she's running around.
And I guess it does go back to that. I guess it does go back to that piece of dialogue. Like you're probably right. I was going to
Sammy
say
Fableman on the camera.
I was going to say, and I kind of put this in my review already, but like for me, it was more that I liked the idea and not the actual result. Like I like the idea of how they insert the images. I just wish they were good ones.
No, I mean that's like an actual
that's
idea,
what I like.
Like
I thought that was one of the best things of the movie, or like one of the strongest ideas of the movie.
That's the only time they use the camera in like a way, like a visual way, and I don't like think it's like effective or used well. But I think there is not a single other time in the movie where they use the idea of photography in like a visual idea. Like it's always narrative. It's always a narrative idea. Like when she's taking the photo of Kirsten Dunst with the dress, like it's all delivered through dialogue and it's like a narrative thing. It's never used like in a visual sense. There was a scene at the beginning where Kirsten Dunst is in the hotel where they do like a really bad they do it a lot where like it's like the like reflection of the camera in the like lens.
Right.
It's like the M. Night Shyamalan old thing, but it's it's like that was like I saw that at the beginning. I was like, oh, it wasn't great, but it was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I feel like it was really started off and I was like, oh, there's something promising here with like the ideas, and then they never attempt them. It's like there was like, oh, there are some things interesting present. Like the idea right away where it was like, oh, the image and like the way that photography is used during war. I think that was like an interesting thing to me. And then it never kind of is attempted to be interesting. Like to talk about the image and like that, the power of that, and to never try to attempt to portray that like visually, like through images is like bizarre. It's like to talk about images in a narrative sense is weird.
It's very silly too, because that also is a decision he made on purpose because he's a film director. where he directs images. You know, he has the ability, and you know, there's like, you know, very talented, like, you know, director of photography on set, and all these like people like also helping to make this movie. They have the ability to make these photos good if they wanted to, but they chose not to. You know, that's it's a decision that was made. It's, I don't know, like,
yeah, it's very confusing. So we've talked about most of the, I'm just looking at like all the things I wanted to cover. We've talked about most of the like major plot points that I hinted at through everything else that we've discussed. The only two we haven't really talked about in too much detail are the gas station that they stop at, and then the everything that happens in DC at the White House, pretty much, which we can get into more detail about. But is there anything at the gas station that you guys gave a shit about? Or
so the gas station, I think, is another example of like a narrative failure of the film, because there's they get to the gas station and basically Kirsten Dunst says, "Hey, I'll give you $300 for half a tank of gas," and the guy's like, "Huh, $300? That'll buy us. That'll get you a cheese sandwich." And then she basically basically looks into the camera and says, 300 Canadian dollars, and that like is like, whoa, okay, now basically like communicating that that like the U.S. economy has completely like been incinerated, and that the U.S. dollar is like useless and all this whatever. And then, you know, and then Kaylee Spaney like goes down and they find like looters that they've captured, like looters that were presumably like, you know, like starving, you know, trying to like steal food that they've you know, hung up and are torturing. And it raises the question, why didn't these people leave America? Why did these people go to Canada or Mexico or somewhere else? Because the movie, they kind of say you can do that in the movie. It's like, you don't have to chill out here if things are that bad. Granted, not everybody can leave, but it's also it doesn't make sense. You know, it doesn't make sense. I don't know. They don't really.
It also like seems, and I get what you're saying, and also like, you know, you bring up the point like not everybody has the ability to leave. Obviously, like your financial status, whatever, like plays a role in that probably. The neighborhood that they find this gas station in, like 2 seconds before they pull up to the gas station, you see a row of houses. And they're like fucking mansions. They're like big ass houses. I was like, I mean, this is probably not like, you know, like these people could probably leave if they want to. Like, granted, like they're in Pennsylvania or whatever, bigger houses because they get, you know, it's Pennsylvania, it's a little bit cheaper and like more land, blah blah blah. But still, like these people probably, and they're in Pennsylvania. Like that's not even that far to get to Canada.
Yeah,
I don't, it's just no, you bring up a good point, because there's people avoiding it. Like one of the things we didn't even talk about with the writing is that both Kaylee Spaney and Kirsten Dunst's parents, they both mentioned that their parents are just kind of like living their lives pretending not to care and avoiding it.
People are starving.
Places you can go to for that,
but people are starving and don't have water, right? Like in like large metropolitan areas, people are starving and people don't have water, but then you're able to avoid it as well, and the economy is destroyed. And it's like it's not logical.
But then they're in like a rural area of Pennsylvania when this happens, so it's like, shouldn't that be not where the action is? I don't know. That's a very like the geography of it doesn't really make sense, because they kind of bring up as well that you know, like Florida failed at like pulling the Carolinas into their alliance, and like when you kind of really start to map this out, that if there's like the war-torn parts of the country and then there's like states that are totally separate from that, but then like all these people are rolling through them, how does that you know what I mean? Like these Western forces that are now strong enough to take over the United States government and like march into the Capitol somehow have to cross through untouched states, or they're just like, or these people who are just murdering people on their entire way to the Capitol are just polite enough to be like, we're gonna drive around you guys, like we're gonna leave you guys alone. Like that doesn't that would never, it makes no sense. Like the longer, and I know this is like what Doug is saying, like this is kind of like a cinema sins, like plot hole type of thing, but it's like, it's also really not. Like, it's like when you don't explain anything, then like none of it makes sense. Like, it's like, this is a pretty major deal that like the actual geography and like the function of the fictional war that you've created makes no sense. Like a lot of people are complaining about the California the California Texas alliance. Like that's not even the most glaring issue here. It's the whole map.
Like, yeah, I think that like complaining about the California Texas thing is kind of I think that it's a dumb thing to complain about because it's like you're like, oh, but it's not reflecting real world politics, and it's like, yeah, dude, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, the movie's
right?
Yeah.
It's like the movie's not that doesn't fucking matter. I would like it if the movie explained anything at all. Actually, not just like I don't want like you don't have to explain why Texas and California are ideologically together on this fucking whatever the issue is, but like if you just gave us an issue,
yeah, like you have to explain what happened. Anyway, that's the gas station scene. The DC thing, and I hinted at this before we started recording. That I found out a little fun fact. Maybe this is not that fun of a fact.
Oh yeah.
But they filmed the White House stuff at Tyler Perry's White House that he has. Did you guys know Tyler Perry has his own like White House replica set in Atlanta, and that's where they filmed the White House.
That's so bizarre.
It's so fucking dumb. So they used Tyler Perry's White House to film the White House.
I think it fits. It's in line with the rest of the movie.
That's really fucking silly. Anyway, they go to the end of their road trip. Them meeting Brando is them going to DC and meeting the president. They get to DC. They're kind of just like we see them in combat all the time. Like the journalists are just kind of like there, like next to the soldiers all the time, which is like not the craziest thing to imagine. Like it probably would kind of happen in this situation because like if there were forces fighting the government, they probably would want cameras on them. So it's not like this isn't like some impossible thing to believe.
All of this whole section of them raiding the White House, it's like pretty realistic, I'd say.
Yeah, no, it actually is.
Some like pretty like there's a couple like kind of dumb decisions that were made, which is whatever.
I mean, the dumbest one is that the president is in the White House.
That's what I was thinking. Like hiding underneath in the Oval Office, hiding underneath.
Like, did you think they weren't going to go in there?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the only way you can really interpret that is that it's like pretty clear that the government he doesn't have the FBI. He doesn't really have much of a secret service. There is like a person who says they're secret service in that scene. So like there has to be some kind of secret service. Yeah. But like he's disbanded the FBI. Obviously, the government is like falling to the Western forces, so that he doesn't have a lot of protection. I guess that means it's possible that he doesn't have anywhere to go. But like even in one of these situations, you can probably assume that they have somewhere to take like they've probably thought this out. I mean, the war's been going on for who knows how long. Obviously, we don't know as viewers of the movie, but the war has to have been going on for some amount of time. They have to during that time they have to have formed a plan for like where to take the president if they get too close to killing him.
Well, also the journalism part of this thematically makes not the most sense to me, because we went from being like it's so opportunist, and maybe that's the point where they're like, oh, it's like I don't know what the point is, but like it's so opportunist where the guy is like, oh, we have to go to DC to go interview the president. I need to interview the president, right? And you're gonna take his photo, and that's what we're gonna do. And then they get there and they're like, oh, we're gonna kill the president now, and they're like, fuck, we're not gonna be able to interview him. And then the plan shifts to like, we're gonna get the photo of the president getting killed. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get, and it's like, no regard for human life.
Speaking of no regard for human life, and speaking of how they make the journalists look like shit, is there Is there a more damning scene than when Kirsten Dunst gets shot in the fucking chest and her partner just walks right past her into the Oval Office?
Her partner, who doesn't even have a camera, like
No, he's just gonna pose up.
He needs Kaylee Spaney to be there.
Yeah.
So he just like picks her up and he's like, "Come on, we're going to the press." No, but yeah, so the whole scene pretty much is them kind of the cars come out as a distraction. It's supposed to be believed that like they're the president. They're like, yeah, they kill those people, they go into the White House. Kirsten Dunst gets shot, as we've already said, trying to save Kaylee Spaney.
Well, she's like, then before that, she's like tweaking. She's like,
she's like acting all weird. She like doesn't want to be there, but then she like doesn't want to be there. But then at the same time, she's also the one who's like, no, he's not in that car. We have to go in the White House. So it's like, do you like?
I don't really know what.
Well, is she still shook by the fact that Stephen McKinley Henderson died?
Yeah, well, she's like, I think that like all of her friends died on the way to do this, right? It's like, we're like the two other journalists that we didn't even talk about that, but because it doesn't matter. But like before the Jesse Plemons scene, like those two other journalists got shot by Jesse Plemons. That I think like really fucked her up. And then obviously Stephen McKinley got shot by Jesse Plemons on their escape, and that really fucked her up.
She like deletes his picture. She like takes a picture of him dead, and then she deletes it, which is like, oh great. Really nailed that one, Alex.
And it's like, and it's kind of her grappling with with war and being like, man, this fucking sucks, dude. This like really sucks.
But I still have to get a picture of the president dying.
Well, but I think it's kind of like this idea of we've come too far now. And you know what? Maybe this movie's really smart. Maybe this movie is actually about like how war changes people and like will drive people to do things that like they need. I don't know.
I've actually literally seen people try to present it that way. I think it's wrong, but
I think that it's fine if you kind of interpret the movie like that. I think that's a totally valid interpretation. But I think that it's so shallow that
that was my point before, where it's like like the movie gives you the ability to pull a number of interpretations from it, but like none of them. No matter which way you slice it, like none of them are done effectively.
It kind of reminds me of Silent Night.
Okay.
The John Woo movie, the holiday John Woo movie that came out last year. I don't think we did. Did we do an episode on this?
I don't believe so. You made fun of me on the podcast for hating it.
Yes, I did make fun of you on the podcast.
And you bullied me into deleting my review.
Did you delete your review?
I did. Yeah, I took it down. Yeah.
I don't remember what your review was, but I remember thinking it was silly and bullying you for it.
Yeah. I felt bad, and I reconsidered. It's okay. It's in the past now. How does this movie relate to Silent Night?
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I cried about it a little as well.
Oh my god.
I'm kidding.
I need to be nicer, maybe. But because in Silent Night, I am dumb, and I like that movie a lot. Not a lot, actually. I like that movie a little bit.
A reasonable amount.
A reasonable amount, like a normal amount. And kind of one of my things of Silent Night, whereas like I have like a really, really, really generous political reading of that movie, where
I actually don't think it's as generous anymore. I think maybe that is just. I've reconsidered. After you bullied me. I did my essential reading. I think it's fair.
Bullying work.
Because kind of my thesis of the movie was like, God, there needs to be a little bit of groundwork here. Just because like in Silent Night, the biggest criticism that people have for that movie is that the movie's kind of like conservative drivel, right?
Right.
And when I watched it, I did not interpret it like that. I interpreted it like, oh, Silent Night, it's kind of like about this guy who fucking sucks. And the movie is like framing this guy. When you watch it, it's like, oh, this guy's a psychopath. And that's that's how I watch it. And I was like, oh, we're watching a fucking dangerous psychopath. Like we're watching the bad guy. And that's how I interpreted the movie.
Yeah, and I actually think that's the only interpretation.
Yeah, right. I'm not crazy, right?
No, because I was actually like, I genuinely was like actually dumb enough to like not consider that like we could just hate the main character, which is like a thing that is true to a lot of movies.
Many,
and I just like really didn't think about that. And then after you bullied me, I was like, no, that makes sense. I was like, that's fine. But I get what you're saying though, in terms of like the Civil War thing, is that like you could try to pull the same thing from it, but it doesn't do it.
you could put your own politics on it, and I think it's fine if you do. I will say though, my thing with Silent Night is I never said Silent Night was an important movie. Lots of people are
You didn't
saying
say
Civil
that.
War is a very important movie.
Yeah. What was the oh, and then going back to what's actually happening in the movie. After, Kirsten Dunst dies, like we say, and then like the very last bit of the movie is they get to the president, they have a gun to his head. Wagner Moore's character stops them, and he's like, wait, I need to get a quote, and he like puts the mic up to the president, and the president's just like, please don't let them kill me. And then Wagner Moore is just like, that'll work. And then they shoot him in the head, and Kaylee Spaney takes a picture of him, which, like, to be fair, kind of maybe one of the only moments in the movie that I liked. I was like kind of one of the only things,
drag him like out of the
like
thing.
No, but like no, specifically the moment where like Wagner Moore is like, that'll work as a quote. I was like, I kind of liked that as like its own separate thing that doesn't exist within the realm of this movie. It happens to be terrible. Yeah, so that's like we've pretty much covered all the major set pieces, like events, whatever you want to call them. We talked about the tone shifts. We talked about the bad music cues. We talked about the movie being vague. We didn't really talk about this. Is like a very minor detail. The gunshots are loud.
Yeah, but not all of them.
Not all of them, but like there's a couple that work as like jump scares, pretty much.
Yeah, I watched this in Dolby, and there was I don't remember what part of the movie it was, but there was like one like gunshot that I was like, damn.
The Christmas drive-through when they drive the car forward and they get sniped. That shit. When I was watching the movie the first time, I'm not even kidding, I almost jumped so far out of my seat that I stood up.
No, like, that did get me. I remember that. I was like, I forgot about that. I did like have a reaction to that.
Yeah, that shit was, dude, it was loud. And I texted my friend because my friend who I saw the movie with the first time, I texted him saying that I was going to see it a second time, probably in Dolby, and he was like, dude, if you watch that in Dolby, it's going to blow your eardrums out. I ended up watching it in IMAX yesterday a second time. Yeah, that shit's loud. Whether that means anything.
That was a personal note that I had, but I didn't think it was like worth bringing up just to bring up. But I thought that like the gunshots being loud, I noticed that too, but I thought it was fucking annoying. I was like, that's
I mean, it's obnoxious.
No, yeah, of course.
It's like a really like simple, like annoying thing trying to be effective, or like I don't know. Making the movie feel, this movie always just feels like it's trying to make the movie like bigger than it is.
Right, which actually kind of connects to what I want to wrap up on now that we've touched on everything, which is actually kind of what we started the conversation with as well, which is like what the movie means for A24 as their like biggest movie. Like, what effects do we think the movie is going to have, and like all of what could come out of this, I guess, is like, this is their first like jump into a sizably like bigger budget than they've worked with in the past. It is probably going to be their most commercially successful movie, possibly. I mean, we will see.
I hate how we have to talk about A24 so much on this podcast. Like, not just like their movies, because like I like, we like some of their movies. But like I hate how like
I was looking at that much. I don't like that many of them.
I like a lot of them. But also like Garland. But like the thing is like Garland's been their guy, kind of. I mean, even when they were doing the, I don't know if it was the premiere for this movie or what it was, but like A24 was like that, like studio execs from like A24 were there like presenting it, and they kind of like talked about how like Garland's their guy. Like, they've made multiple
big
movies.
investments.
He's kind of like helped them launch A24 into like what it is now. Like he plays a significant role in that. And now he gets to be the guy who like leads their first like big movie, I guess. I don't know. Big is like a weird way to describe it. But
I think if A24 could fucking thank their success. Granted, it's like their marketing team, like the in-house marketing guys at A24, they're really like who was successful and made this fucking brand what it is. But if they could like thank two filmmakers for their success, it's Alex Garland for making Ex Machina, right? And it's
Ari Aster.
goddamn Ari Aster for making Hereditary and Midsommar.
I feel like they could thank some of the directors who made like their Best Picture nominated movies.
Yeah, I mean, like
Harmony Korine,
Moonlight, yeah,
Moonlight, which is like an incredible movie. It's
David
but
Lowery.
that's not Moonlight. I don't know.
I get what you're saying. Like in terms of commercial success.
Yeah, in terms of it's not as branded like that. It's like but also made just because like the stuff that I'm around, I see so much like because there's the A24 shirt with like the midsummer flowers on it and other shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the screenshot I posted on Twitter yesterday? I was like, I watched some TikTok and Moises Arias was in it. And the comments were like someone recommended like this movie he did in the comments, and then someone else was like, he needs to be in an A24 movie, and then someone replied and was like, he definitely has an A24 face.
Yeah, they clogged him.
What does that mean? Like where are we?
I really do think that A24 being just synonymous with this idea of art house cinema is so fucking bad. It is so bad, especially, and I think like it was already bad before. I think it's getting so much worse now. That
do you think that Civil War?
I think it will. I think it will.
Well, no. I'm saying like I think it's getting worse because it's like like Civil War is like this big like tentpole in-house, like totally entirely in-house like A24 movie, and it's like. I mean, is this like what people are gonna associate with like an art movie now, or are people gonna be like, oh, A24 is making like normal movies, or whatever the fuck they say?
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like it's not. When going back to it, it's like it's marketed as a normal movie, and then you watch it, and it's it's not a good movie, but it's not exciting in the way that a normal movie is either. It's not very lighthearted. It's not like there's like jokes in it, but it's a pretty dark, disturbing movie.
It's not
to
like
be like
it's not American Sniper,
Yeah. It's just like it's not like an easy movie to be like, it's not the same as like when they tried to market Zone of Interest, but it's not like it's not like an easy movie to like sell as one thing and then have it be this entirely different thing, and then like people will probably still associate it. Like I've already seen people kind of like deem it a horror movie, and I'm
I've seen Paul Schrader fucking said that.
Yeah, and it's like there's like horrifying ideas in it that are not horrifying in the movie because of all the stuff that we talked about, but like there's a way in which some of these scenes could have been horrifying if they were made differently. Yeah, sure. We're gonna talk about him later.
He wants to be. Alex Garland wants to make The Happening so bad. Alex Garland's The Happening.
He wishes.
That's the thing is, I think this is bad.
No, we agree. Doug, do you have anything else you want to say about Civil War?
Wish this movie didn't exist. To be honest, it's because like I cannot say I'm an Alex Garland fan. I can't. You know what I mean? I cannot say. That's embarrassing. I don't think I'm a fan of his anymore. Like,
but are you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Right?
Well, but I'm saying like how did this like move the needle? Like it's like
it moved it. So
how many more Civil Wars can you take, Doug?
Yeah. 0. I couldn't take this one. I'm out. I'm out. It's like listener, if you're still fucking listening to this, let me put this in perspective for you. I like men.
All right. All right.
I think Doug, we're 60 episodes deep, dude. I think they know.
That's the way to close it. All right, let's get a news.
Okay. We're going to talk about news. Obviously, reminding everybody to share some feedback if you also hated Civil War, or maybe if you liked it. You can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. You can rate the episode on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can follow us on Twitter. You can comment on Letterboxd review. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that. Okay. we're going to start the news by talking about the 2024 Cannes lineup that was announced just a few days ago. We don't have to talk about every single movie on here. If you guys have specific movies that you want to touch on, we can go there. I'm just going to kind of list off a few of like the more notable ones, I guess, for the average listener, which is out of competition. We have Furiosa playing there. We have Horizon and American Saga playing there.
Just banger after banger
and
so
then
far.
In competition, we have Megalopolis, which we've talked about on the podcast to great lengths. We have The Apprentice, the Ali Abbasi movie with Donald Trump in it. We have well, it's about Donald Trump. We have a new Sean Baker movie, a Cronenberg movie, Yorgos Lanthimos' Kinds of Kindness, new Paul Schrader movie, Oh Canada, what Doug hinted at before, the Paolo Sorrentino movie, and there's a couple more things like smaller, lesser known directors, I guess.
Yeah, there were a couple I have heard of, filmmakers. I mean, I don't have the list in front of me right now, so I don't know which ones, I forget. But then like there's also like I want to say like 3 or 4 filmmakers that I just never heard of before that are in comp.
I mean, there's like there's a new Leos Carax movie. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but that's not in competition.
No.
There's a new movie called Ernest Cole, Lost and Found, which I think is like a documentary / drama from Raoul Peck, who made a documentary that I've enjoyed. He made the James Baldwin documentary, I'm Not Your Negro, and he made like a bunch of other ones that seemingly are really good. So I'm kind of interested in that. There's like a number of other I guess like notable for us. I feel like because we were kind of having a conversation off podcast and like our group chat about what was gonna win, and we were saying like it kind of has to be Megalopolis. Is it possible that it's just like one of the movies that like is not by one of these big directors, like the way that like Anatomy of a Fall or whatever, what like it's, you know,
it's not even possible. That's likely. That's
probable. Yeah, okay. That's what I was thinking. It's like when you guys were talking about it, I was like, I feel like it's just not gonna be that.
What happened was in our group chat, right? One of our group chats, I brought up how I was like, oh, it looks like it's going to be a knife fight for the Palme d'Or, which is like the grand prize out of competition for the Cannes Film Festival. And then George Carmy said, I cannot imagine a world where Megalopolis doesn't win unless that movie's just really bad. And he said that, and I was like, it's probably not going to win.
Actually, yeah. I didn't even mention Andrea Arnold on that list of directors as well. Like there's like other, there's definitely a lot of people here. I don't think Yorgos wins because I don't know.
Anthology movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
right, it's Kinds of Kindness, right?
Yeah, Kinds of Kindness. Yeah. I mean, the Paolo Sorrentino movie seems interesting, but I don't know that he's like a name that screams.
Josh Connor's in that.
Like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, which you said before. I don't know. Do you guys feel a particular way about the Apprentice?
Do I feel a particular way?
Yeah, are you like excited? Are you like?
No, I'm not excited for the Donald Trump movie.
I'm asking because it's made by because like people were shitting on it, but I'm like, it's made by like a guy who like knows how to make movies.
There was that still photo that was posted on Twitter of Sebastian. What's his name? Stans.
Yeah.
Sitting on like a bench. And I was like, man, this looks like an SNL skit, dude.
Yeah.
No, I mean it'll probably be bad, but I don't like. I feel like people wrote it off, and I'm like, at least it's like being made by like somebody who knows how to make a movie. Like,
I mean, have you seen any of these movies? I haven't seen.
No, I'm just like, but people like them.
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
I'm just saying, like, it's like different than what's her name making the fucking the Back to Black or whatever.
Yeah,
sure.
Like it's like obviously. Probably. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. We haven't seen the movie.
That doesn't look that great.
I don't know. I heard. I know a lot of people like that Holy Spider movie. I'm gonna watch one of. I think I'll watch one of his movies before The Apprentice comes out. Or maybe multiple if I like them. I don't know. my point was just that I thought people were being a little dismissive too fast. It'll probably suck because I don't think it's like a good way to make a Donald Trump movie.
Why do you want to do that?
Yeah, it is. No, it is kind of weird. What about the Cronenberg movie? Do we know anything about that?
The Shrouds? It's very personal. It's like what's his name? Vincent Castle just like straight up looks like David Cronenberg. And it's about like his wife's passing.
Interesting.
So
very excited for that.
I think we've pretty much talked about all these other ones as well.
The placeholder poster on Letterboxd for the Shrouds, it's not real, obviously, but it looks so sick.
Awesome.
It's like the coolest image.
And then you have the that one fucking still of all the like fucking Doctor Who ass things.
Yeah, that's what I thought of when I saw it. Yeah.
I wasn't sure that. I don't know if we even talk about the Shrouds in our like most anticipated, because we didn't know if it was going to.
We didn't talk about that. The only other one here I think is like that is a movie we haven't really touched on the podcast, but is like made by a director we know and like, is the new Sean Baker movie. I don't think we've talked about that.
Yeah, because we didn't know that was going to come out this year either.
Yeah,
with Mikey Madison.
Yeah, with Mikey Madison. Yeah,
those are both for me personally.
We don't really know much about that, do we?
No, it was shot in secret. Yeah, it was shot. It was shot.
I'm excited if it's Sean Baker. Yeah, I mean.
No, because like it was like PSP. Remember when everybody was like, "Oh, Mikey Madsen isn't in any movies," and it's like she has nothing on the road, and it's like, guys, like they shot this, like she has a whole movie in the can. Like Sean Baker, this movie has already been filmed. No, I'm excited for both those movies. Like really, really excited.
That's a good lineup.
And we were talking about just like with O Canada, we were like talking about when this is going to play, and if this, like, because we really have any information, and then boom, now it's in competition. Because I'm super excited about that with Richard Gere and Jacob Lordy.
Yeah, because we were talking about like we were just trying to speculate. This is so far down the line. We're trying to speculate what's going to play at New York Film Festival when we go. And we were like, oh, what if O Canada plays? What if The Shrouds plays? What if Megalopolis plays? And we're like, oh, if all the stuff is playing in Cannes in competition, it's likely that most of the stuff is not going to end up playing there late in the fall. But it's possible that's not so full. We'll see.
Okay, going away from Cannes stuff, Damien Chazelle to write and direct an untitled movie for Paramount Pictures, and all we know is that it will be set in a prison.
His ass was never in director's jail. He was just developing a movie. He was just like writing. He was just like
making a movie.
He was literally he was in between things.
Yeah, he was just in between things. It's like people have such like fucked up. He was like, yeah, guys.
Richard Kelly has been fucking thrown away for a decade or two.
Babylon was probably a really hard fucking movie to make. He probably just like took a little, like a tiny break while he was working on the next one. It's like this isn't like.
He's still Damien Chazelle.
Yeah, he made La La Land. What are we doing? He's on a director's jail.
Where is Barry? Where is Barry Jenkins? That's not director's jail. That's something else. Where would we put? Like, what is that place that he is in?
Like kids movie jail.
No. Well, here's the thing. I think that like I saw, this is a very generous reading, right? But I saw somebody say that like, okay, Barry Jenkins, what he's doing is fine because he's doing this so we could make like 5 more Moonlights, right? That I don't think that's going to be the case, but
No, I mean,
I listened to him talk at the cinema. There was a video from CinemaCon that was sweet.
Yeah,
where he's talking about like, I don't know,
he's a really good filmmaker.
I was also reading something where it's like talking about Spielberg and when he's working on Ready Player One, like him just being so amazed by like the technology, and Barry Jenkins being around that technology is interesting for his like future as a filmmaker. Because like him just like learning all of that stuff, like just kind of taking that in, is going to affect the way that he sees the future like as a filmmaker. Which it will be interesting to kind of, the movie might be bad or kind of just like fine is as itself, but it's going to very like much like it's going to affect the rest of Barry Jenkins' career. It's not going to be just like a movie that just like, happens and then
because he's been working
on
it
goes back to like Moonlight, you know?
Yeah, he's been working on this movie for like 3 years. This movie's been in production for a really fucking long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's upsetting just because like Moonlight is, it's like one of the most fucking important contemporary movies. Like it just like it is like it's like that. Like you cannot overstate how much of an achievement Moonlight is. And then that guy has just been like fucking locked in the studio.
No, it's
like,
very upsetting.
It's I don't know.
Because I don't that should not happen. That's
No, really, it just shouldn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Ang Lee, fucking Lion King with the fucking 3D fucking 180.
No, I'm not even joking. Ang Lee making this exact same fucking movie that Barry Jenkins is making I would actually be excited for it. I'd be like,
well,
hey, wait, this is cool. This is a decision.
I think that would be like the best one for you, one for me, is if they had Ang Lee do Disney remakes and like the narrative could be like fucking butter bones, but Ang Lee could just have the money and to experiment the fuck with like 3D and shit.
Yeah, do high frame rate 3D CGI.
Yeah. Just let Ang Lee run wild and then you can print money, Disney.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, no, there's more. Don't worry. Glenn Powell to star in Edgar Wright's film adaptation of Stephen King's The Running Man. And we learned after that Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, and Chris Hemsworth were all considered for the role.
It's a Glenn Powell world that we live in. Also, being considered for the role.
That could be, yeah. I mean,
that's doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Considered.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't even mean they talked to them.
Yeah, that could mean Ryan said, fuck off. Yeah. But Ryan, he kind of excites everything.
But it's interesting that Glenn Powell's name is alongside those other names. He's taken over. Edgar Wright movie. Are we?
What is it? Was no Barbarella? What are we doing? Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney, both Edgar Wright. Then
there's things are. Look at how you did that.
Edgar Wright universe. Edgar Wright's directing.
Do you guys know what The Running Man is about? The Stephen King book?
No. I've seen some stills of the original movie.
Interesting.
With Arnold.
Arnold, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. I know it's like a.
What happened to
I read like a synopsis before, but I can't recount it in detail. But it's pretty much like a game show type of thing, where like he's trapped in a game show and he's like running away from like people that are like trying to kill him. Like he like has to like survive like serial killers pretty much, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
It's something along those.
Where are we with Edgar Wright?
He's made mostly good movies.
Let's make another one. I don't know.
That's the thing. It's literally like it's been a while. What have you done for me lately, Ed? I like some of his earlier works.
Everybody does.
Like so far.
Yeah,
everybody likes the trilogy, and like most people like Scott Pilgrim. It's
like okay.
We'll see. I guess.
Maybe he is what Tarantino is afraid of.
How do you guys feel about this? How do you guys feel about this next guy? Jeremy Allen White has officially been cast as Bruce Springsteen in Scott Cooper's "Deliver Me from Nowhere."
Scott Cooper, not a great director. So
I don't care so much. I can't even like muster up a fucking opinion about this. I care.
That's
so
just the worst version of the whole Bob Dylan thing with what's his name.
Timothy Chalamet.
I'm not saying no. I'm not forgetting him. I'm the director.
James Mangold.
Yeah, that is just James Mangold. Just Scott Cooper is like the next.
Oh, Scott Cooper did Antlers, right? And The Pale Eye. Damn, that guy kind of sucks. I never watched like the movies that he made earlier. Well, I want to watch Crazy Heart, I guess, but
apparently the word on him is like he can get a good performance out of someone, but he just can't do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, Crazy Heart won him an Oscar or whatever. When Jeff Bridges,
I don't even know what that is. So
it's the Jeff Bridges movie where he sings. He's like anyway. It's not important.
Couldn't tell you.
Well, he just made a movie with a guy who sings, and this is a movie about Bruce Springsteen.
I don't care.
I'm just no shit.
Oh my god! No, I'm just like Bruce Springsteen. Who cares, bro?
Hey, don't.
Hey, it might hit that Top Gun audience.
Don't say that about Bruce.
No, I know, but it just like I don't know. I don't know. Like,
how many more of these? Wait, actually,
that's what I mean. That's what I'm getting at. It's like, can we chill out with these fucking biopics, dude?
What is Josh Gad doing recently? What
Josh Gad do you have that in your news? The Josh Gad biopic?
I do not have that, but
that's fucking hilarious.
Can present that as a piece of. I don't even know what you're talking about. Actually,
Chris Farley. Josh Gad's going to direct the Chris Farley biopic.
Josh Gad is directing it.
Yes.
Oh,
I forget the actor is the guy that people like. I forget his name.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Chris Farley.
The guy that people like.
Yeah. He was. People thought he was going to be in the Tarantino movie. It's not announced yet or anything, but like, He's a 3-word name.
A 3-word name.
I don't know.
The Chris Farley biopic. Oh, Paul Walter Hauser.
There we go.
Oh, I like Paul Walter Hauser.
Exactly.
He's a good
People
actor.
like him. Yeah. So that was the thing is people were like, oh, Chris Farley biopic. Okay. And then they were like, oh, I like this actor. And then Josh Gad directing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's like, what?
That's definitely
maybe
a choice.
Josh Gad was attached to that 20 years ago. And then there's like, fuck,
like star in it. Like,
yeah. Fuck, I guess you can direct it. I don't like.
Somebody's got to do it.
Oh man,
it's like the Mark Wahlberg thing with Uncharted, but he's instead of acting in it, he's directing it.
That's crazy.
We have 2 additions to franchises that nobody cares about, including you guys probably. A new Blair Witch Project movie is in the works at Lionsgate and Blumhouse. It will be the first in a multi-picture deal with Blumhouse, reimagining horror classics from the Lionsgate library. I tried to look up I tried to look up popular Lionsgate horror movies, and one of the first results is American Psycho.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll be remade? The other movies here, I'm like, I don't really see them remaking any of these, and some of them aren't like even old enough.
Oh, like May? Are they going to remake May?
I don't like Cabin in the Woods. Like that's like that only came out like 13 years ago. They're not going to remake Cabin in the Woods. I don't really like American Psycho is kind of the one.
Well, 3-picture deal. So American Psycho. What was the other one?
Sinister is one, but that's like also not an old movie.
It's already Blumhouse, I think. Right?
Yeah, Sinister's already a Blumhouse movie, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't know what.
I don't know. Google's also like not helpful. This is hard.
Yeah, Google is like really not
hard information to find.
Bug.
Yeah.
Oh, they're already doing a new Strangers movie. Like they're already doing. Saw is still ongoing. Would they remake The Descent?
Get me in on this deal.
Yeah, people like The Descent. That movie is scary, apparently.
American Psycho is definitely one of them.
It's overrated as fuck.
Blumhouse American Psycho is actually so fucking funny.
Oh, you know what's one of them? House of 1,000 Corpses.
Oh my! Get me in there. Let me do that.
That's. I mean, that might be the trilogy: House of 1,000 Corpses, The Descent, and
American Psycho.
No, Blair Witch Project. Because Blair Witch Project, like these are all like.
No,
do we need a second? We don't need a second Blair Witch Project remake.
Well, they're already. Yeah, I know. I was gonna say there already was one. Yeah, I don't. It's dumb. It's dumb. Whatever. And then the second of those is that they're making a new scary movie, but the way that they said it wasn't like a Scary Movie 6. They didn't say it as like Scary Movie 6. They said it as like Scary Movie 1, even though it's the 6th one. I don't really know what that means though.
Everybody's saying
it's like when Scream was like Scream 5, but it's just Scream.
Yeah. Did you see? But people are saying that they should get Melissa Barrera to be in Scary Movie and like just do the new Scream movie as Scary.
Well, but you can't. So for Scary Movie, it's like for a contemporary Scary Movie, you cannot do what they were doing, which is just like making fun of Scream. You have to make fun of Hereditary. You have to make fun of Talk to Me. I don't know if they're going to do that though. If they do that, it could be a funny thing. I don't know if they're going to do that.
I just don't think there's like a way in which these movies work. I mean, like the original Scary Movies are just like the most offensive humor imaginable. Like that was like their whole thing is just that they're like racist and like transphobic and like just really mean, nasty.
Shaquille O'Neal was in Saw.
Like they're just fucked up. Do we need this? I don't like. This is like the kind of humor that like is so dated. Like those you guys remember those haunted house movies? I don't remember how many of them they made. The Wayans Brothers movies,
Max
the haunted
will be
house
in
ones.
Scary Movie.
It just feels dated. Anyway, and then the last thing I put here is really like kind of a general thing and not a specific piece of news, but we already talked about the Cannes lineup. Is there anything that you guys heard out of CinemaCon that excited you?
Oh, Trap.
I mean the Trap trailer. Yeah.
Trap.
I put the Gladiator 2
stuff
in here, like the synopsis of like Gladiator 2, which is
those two trailers are probably
rhino. We know there's sharks. We know there's a horde of baboons.
There was like I remember when they like stopped doing production on Gladiator 2. It was like Paul Mescal was in the middle of like fighting baboons or something, and everything about this movie sounds fucking insane. And like the whole like bloated budget from Ridley and Paul Mescal beating the shit out of the Mandalorian and whatever the fuck that guy's name is. And Denzel. I mean, it's just I'm really excited.
There's another thing out of it too, where they talk about Nosferatu. And they had like a Nosferatu panel. That sounded kind of cool, but I think that like I heard because on the Big Pick, because Sean Fennessy, I feel weird bringing this up. Yeah, but like he was bringing up how we went to CinemaCon. I feel weird talking about this on our podcast, but he described Nosferatu and he was like, yeah, they're trying to make it like a mainstream thing. They're trying to make like Nosferatu like a big movie, and I'm like, that's a bad decision.
Yeah,
like from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah,
I mean it's vampires.
Yeah, but it's a Robert Eggers movie. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, they tried it with the Northman. They're gonna keep trying to do it.
Yeah.
Well, what he said on the podcast was that the Northman did really good on like VOD.
PVOD. Yeah.
Which like I do kind of remember this.
I remember
I do kind of remember there was like a tweet about like them saying that it was making a lot on
because the Northman like lost money in theaters, but then it made money on VOD. Like it made its money back.
So that is significant, I guess. No, the trap trailer sounded fucking awesome. The part where he's like looking on his phone and he has like a camera in the house, like where he has somebody like tied up or whatever. I mean, that movie's gonna fucking rock. That's such a
it reminds it's like movie. It's a very Split feeling.
It sounds
where we're gonna
awesome.
get an all-time performance from Josh Hartnett.
Yeah. Okay. That's our last piece of news. We can wrap up there. You can join us next week for episode 63. It'll be a surprise once again. We'll see what we talk about. But we'll see.
Abigail. We're talking about Abigail. Bye, guys.
Oh, no.